Online news update now. In the first year of his second term, Donald Trump has pursued what many describe as an aggressive foreign policy. Some might even call it a war policy. His administration has launched attacks on sovereign nations, increased military support to Israel amid accusations from a UN panel of genocide in Gaza, issued threats against allied territories, seized oil tankers, and detained Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro. President Trump says these actions are necessary for U.S. national security. How do you assess the situation? None of these actions have improved U.S. national security. In fact, I believe the United States is less secure today than it was at the start of Trump's second term. The Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists recently moved the doomsday clock 4 seconds closer to midnight, warning that the world now stands just 85 seconds from nuclear catastrophe. They concluded that global insecurity has increased significantly over the past year, and I agree. The U.S. has reportedly bombed 7 countries. The president frequently threatens new conflicts, including the possibility of expanded war in the Middle East. A major carrier strike group has been deployed, with rhetoric suggesting potential action against Iran. Meanwhile, U.S. policy toward Venezuela has included measures that critics describe as violating international law. The administration has also withdrawn from 31 UN organizations, signaling a broader rejection of the UN-based international system. This posture, suggesting the U.S. is not bound by international law or the UN Charter, is dangerous and destabilizing. It does not make America safer. It makes both the U.S. and the world less secure. Tensions with Iran intensified this week. President Trump said time is running out for Iran to accept a new nuclear deal, one that would reportedly require Iran to dismantle its entire nuclear program and restrict its missile range so it cannot reach Israel. With those conditions, is there really room for negotiation? I doubt Iran would accept such sweeping demands. If negotiations fail, the risk of war increases, and that would be disastrous, not only for Iran, but for the entire region, possibly even globally. The U.S. has pursued what it calls a maximum pressure campaign aimed at crippling Iran's economy. That amounts to economic warfare. While military confrontation has been limited, the pressure campaign has been intense. Iran is a significant regional power with around 90 million people, advanced missile capabilities, and regional allies. Any conflict could easily escalate into a broader regional war. This is not a minor or isolated confrontation. Turning to Venezuela, what was the objective behind detaining President Maduro and increasing pressure on his government? U.S. efforts to overthrow Venezuela's left-wing government date back at least to 2002, when there was a coup attempt against then-President Hugo Chavez. Since then, especially after Venezuela's vast oil reserves were confirmed, Washington has pursued regime change through economic sanctions and political pressure. During the 2010s, sanctions severely impacted Venezuela's economy. At one point, the U.S. recognized opposition leader Juan Guaidó as interim president, confiscating Venezuelan assets abroad in his name. That effort ultimately failed. The broader strategy of regime change, however, has persisted for decades. Much of this was discussed at the annual gathering in Davos during the World Economic Forum. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney described the current moment as a rupture in the post-World War II global order. Are we at a turning point? Yes. We are undergoing a major historical transition from roughly 250 years of Western dominance to a multipolar world. China is an economic superpower. Russia remains a major power. India is rising. Multipolarity is already here. However, parts of Washington still act as though the U.S. can maintain unilateral dominance. That disconnect between geopolitical reality and U.S. policy is contributing to instability. The U.S. appears increasingly at odds with the UN-based international system, seeking freedom from global rules just as its relative dominance declines. Finally, what about NATO's future? Some argue Trump's comments about Greenland have strained alliances. Europe should pursue an independent foreign policy focused on diplomacy with Russia and China. Rather than relying exclusively on NATO, Europe could emphasize collective security and peaceful engagement. A balanced diplomatic approach would likely serve Europe's long-term interests better than escalating confrontation. Thank you for listening to our news update. Please subscribe to our channel for more news updates.